Driver X and Odd Garrett. Hello. We are here to resume and perhaps conclude Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, Case 5. So, about a week ago, when I started up OBS, which is what I use for streaming, it was like, hey, make sure you update OBS by the 28th because something. Like something about not being able to stream anymore. And I was like, oh, alright, I'll do that eventually. And I just realized that is today, because the version that I'm using is like 4 full versions behind the current. It's like current is 27.2, and I'm like, I'm on 23.2. I think it's already done. I mean, we're on the final case, pretty much for sure. And it's not like we have a whole lot of clues left. We still don't really know what's going on. Right, okay, it's been a little while. It's been a little while because we took a break. What is going on? We found out that there were 3 shots fired in the pawn shop that night. One which killed the owner. One which hit Sherlock Holmes but didn't Herlock Sholmes but didn't go into his body. There was kind of a fake out where they were like, oh, it ricocheted off of him and hit the wall. And then they were like, no, it didn't go, it hit the holster thing where he keeps a bunch of like deadly chemicals so that he can have them on hand at all times. And one of those, the bullet is lodged in that pouch, so it didn't hit him, but he was still injured. And there is a third one that hit the calendar on the wall. So we said, hey, I bet it's that guy who was in the pawn shop, Eggs Benedict. Eggert Benedict. Faded is here too. Hello. Oh, I suppose it is March 1st over there. It is still the 28th here for another 6 hours. So we are now summoning Eggert Benedict to court in order to interrogate him. I hereby call this court to order as we resume the trial of Miss Gina Lestrade. Lord Von Zieks, have you successfully subpoenaed the witness? The subpoena was delivered to the communication station where the man works immediately, my lord. However, the heavy rain has delayed the arrival of his carriage, it would seem. I'll just bring him here in an omnibus. Easy. I see. And let us turn our attention to Inspector Gregson's precis of the case heard by the court this morning. Precis? That's a rare word. The glaring omission of the 3rd bullet in your report is a serious blunder, Inspector. Yes, I can only apologize, my lord. And although the defense's chemical analysis of the blood at the scene makes for a compelling argument, I cannot permit such untried methods to be used as evidence in my courtroom. Unsurprisingly. It's a big mistake to cross Hurley and me. A very big mistake, given how many grenade launchers I have, though they are all unloaded at present. My lord, the subpoenaed witness has just arrived in the building. Thank you, officer. Show him to the stand without delay. You watch my Dual Destiny stream in YouTube? I have been catching up. I have been uploading stuff. I just uploaded all of Pathologic 2 from February of last year. Mr. Eggert Benedict. I didn't expect to be crossing paths. I also didn't expect to be crossing paths with him again so soon, and certainly not like this. Thank you for complying with the court's subpoena at such a short notice, sir.
But of course, my lord, as an upstanding member of London society, it is my privilege, no, it is my pleasure to oblige.
Now, kindly state your name and occupation for the record.
Ashley Graydon, Communications Officer.
Mr. Graydon and I both work at London's Central Communication Station. Oh, it is not terabytes. They're not that big of files. Are they? No. It is kind of nice, like, it's definitely something that I and everyone takes for granted, that there's a website that's just like, yeah, freaking throw us all your videos and we'll let people watch them for free all the time. Why not? No, you don't have to pay us, and neither do they. It's like, oh, that's also awfully nice of you, Faceless Corporation.
Now perhaps somebody would kindly explain what all this is about?
You were apprised of the situation by the court officer, on your way here, I presume.
Yes, I was. Something to do with murder that took place at a pawnbroker's on Baker Street. And some nonsense about me having been there on the night in question.
Twins. Twins, triplets, open and shut case.
That is the accusation, indeed.
I haven't clicked on it, but there's a video that's been recommended to me a bunch of times about somebody, like, making an AI, like, a guy who does streams, and he's like, I fooled my chat into, like, by making an AI version of myself. And, streamed and saw how long it took for people to catch on. I guess it's possible. Although, where would you find an AI that was as good at video games as I am? That's the hard part.
This really is beyond a joke, you know.
Very well. Without further delay, the court will hear your testimony now, Mr. Graydon. You will respond to the accusation made against you under oath.
Gladly, my lord. Gladly.
What's the name? Ashley Graydon. Is that a funny name? It was Ashley, right? Ashley Graydon. Six different qualities. I definitely don't do that. Or you're saying, like, when you... No, what do you mean? He looked down at his suit. That would be funny. if he was just like, yes, my name, Calvin Klein. It's written all over my underwear.
Naturally, I have occasion to make use of pawnbroking services from time to time, but are you seriously suggesting that I colluded with these thugs to break into the place on the night of the murder? I have no intention of admitting to such an outrageous accusation.
Could be Ashley Gray, Ash Gray suit.
Even if certain parties here present claim that my blood was found at the scene, some Scaramouche detective's homebrewed tincture can hardly be taken as serious evidence.
I mean, the only place I've ever heard that word is the same place everyone has ever heard that word, and that is Bohemian Rhapsody. Scaramouche. So you deny the accusation completely, do you?
I must say, I am dismayed for the highest court in the land to be swayed by this self-professed detective's toy.
It was the will of the jury, and our great British justice system demands that the jury's will is upheld.
Then it would seem we have the misfortune of a most inept assembly of jurors today.
By golly,
How long am I expected to be detained here? Am I free to go? Is there any fringe on the American flag in this courtroom?
If, following the defense's cross-examination, your involvement in this matter has not been established, you will be free to leave immediately. Hey, Shub!
Good, then I shall be away in time for afternoon tea. Some small consolation, at least.
I assumed that they had tea dispensers right in the courtroom in England. Let us not hold up Mr. Graydon any longer than necessary, counsel. Proceed with the cross-examination. So, we meet again, Mr. Eggert Benedict. Or is it Mr. Graydon?
My apologies. You are?
Ryunosuke Naruhodo, defense lawyer. We have met.
If you say so. Ashley Graydon, enchanté. So...
Oh! Am I a hat rack now? Ag.
I trust we can conclude this quickly.
Ugh. But I'm not holding your flashy hat while we do. I threw it on the ground. Can't buy me, hot dog man. Hold it! Hat's thrown. 1. Yes, we even met in the very pawnbrokery where the crime took place on the afternoon of the day in question. Though, of course, you introduced yourself by a different name at the time. It was Mr. Eggert Benedict, I believe. Tell me, what made you...
The witness is here to testify about events that took place that night.
I won't be a part of your system.
He is under no obligation to answer such unrelated questions.
You can't be serious, Shirley.
Thank you, because I certainly do not feel inclined to answer such an inappropriate question.
So he's going to be evasive, is he, in an effort to not to give anything away? This could be tricky.
Dots.
Hold it! Oh, you're 22. How big? Well, actually, I don't know where they are because I just moved them. Mine don't seem to be that big. Although I also only stream for like 3 hours, sometimes 2, sometimes 0. Have you seen these 2 men before?
This pair? No, I don't associate with criminals.
Said by a man who introduced himself as Eggert Benedict.
I'd like to know who I have to thank for this. Who made these outlandish accusations? This outlandish accusation against me? The young lawyer there in the black. This is a farce. Whose idea was it to permit an outsider to work in a British court anyway? Well, needless to say.
More dots. Okay, stop dots. Whoops. Wait, I can use my mouse wheel? I can totally use my mouse wheel. Hold it! I press. Where were you on the night of the... No. Where were you at around 1 in the morning on the night in question, sir?
That is past the hour at which I would normally retire. Certainly. I was not in the company of these rapscallions.
You're able to prove that?
Dots.
Objection!
Listen carefully, my learned Nipodese friend, for you appear to be under a gross misapprehension for this point.
What do you mean?
The witness maintains he was not at the scene of the crime. He has no obligation to prove his absence. If your accusation is that the witness was present at the scene, the obligation lies with you to prove your assertion. You will fulfill that obligation before putting any more unreasonable questions to the witness.
Jukin' and jivin'. I can't hit him. A silent victory wiggle. Thanks. Oh, Streamlabs is recording uncompressed video. That is enormous. Yeah, it's extremely enormous. And is this the... I mean, we know that this is it. Because it's reincorporating stuff from the other cases, which is what always happens in the Final Phoenix Wright case.
Hold it!
Alright, well, do you mind if I just stab you and take your blood? Stab you with this hat? Blood was found at the scene of the crime. There's no question of that. Mr. Sholm's chemical analysis has positively identified the substance as such.
But I am not the only human to have blood running through my veins, am I? How can you be sure that the blood is mine? It could equally be the blood of one of these two miscreants.
Every individual's blood has a slightly different composition, it seems. Mr. Sholmes's chemical is able to differentiate...
Spare me the science lesson. Who is this Sholmes character anyway?
Oh, I assumed all Londoners would know the name. He's a renowned detective.
So, even you are unable to bring yourself to say great detective. A great detective, you say?
Tut. Tut!
I tut at you, sir. Now we're in the realm of fairy tales, are we?
The green dye they looked at it and they were like, okay, this isn't really something we're willing to like seriously allow as evidence because we don't know that this is real science.
Excuse me.
You, sir. What are you flipping out about? Do you have something to say about that, Mr. Skulkin?
What? Me?
No, the Mr. Skulkin next to you. Right, I've had it up to here with this. How many times have I got to tell you? Yes, I know. You're not Big Bruv Sulky. Mr. Nash Skulkin. Call blind, you gov. You what? Is it not the case that when Mr. Graydon just spoke, a thought went through your mind? Would you care to share that thought with the court? Me thoughts? I don't have none of them. It must have been them.
You what?
Mr. Nash Skulkin, answer the question, please. Have you ever thought of anything? What went through your mind when Mr. Graydon just spoke? Nothing. Honest, Gov, nothing. I was just thinking... If he waves his arm around like that much more, it'll open up the wound again, that's all. What wound? Where he took the bullet, of course. It was only 2 days ago. It can't be healed up yet. So I was, well, you know, I was worrying for him and... Oh, Thal's balls. Mr. Graydon, did you hear that?
What?
Your comrade is worried about you, it seems. On account of your injured arm.
My lord.
Yes, Mr. Graydon?
I have no idea what these two wretches are talking about. The two youths. Certainly I shouldn't be expected to answer anything in relation to their mindless insinuations.
We know that someone other than the victim was hit by a bullet at the scene of the crime 2 nights ago. And from the height of the bullet hole in the wall, that person was likely hit in the upper arm or thereabouts. Perhaps you'd allow a court official to examine your arm, sir? The left arm you're currently clasping with your right hand as if in pain? If that is your real arm?
No. Daga Kotawaru.
Japanese, so I know what that means.
You've shown no evidence whatsoever that links me to these common thieves. Accordingly, I am not obliged to permit any such invasion of my privacy.
Yes. Yeah, we, how is it related? The whole thing kicked off over the fact that, apparently, very shortly after he died, he was apparently... What do we have? It's good for me to refresh myself on this, too. Somebody pawned his coat at right about the same, almost the same exact time that he died, just very shortly after he supposedly died. And there's a thumbprint on the ticket as they, that they were, the ticket for, like, this is to get your coat back. The blood on here belongs to Mason, the guy who was killed in the omnibus. And I forget what other evidence we have, but we're fairly sure that that he did it in... No, do we think he did it in person? Or did he give... I want to say no. Maybe he gave... Did he meet with the girl? I actually do kind of forget the timeline. Okay, either immediately the same day as the... No, it must have been he showed up later. At some point, he gave her the ticket and was like, I want you to go pick up my coat on this from this pawn shop on this particular day. Here is the ticket for it. Because he was threatening her or something. I kind of forget. But I'm sure they'll kind of review it when it becomes truly relevant again.
As I've already said, I'm completely uninvolved in all of this. I've never had anything to do with the pawnbrokery where this fellow was killed whatsoever. I take offense to the insinuation that I was in any way involved.
You claim to have had nothing whatsoever to do with Mr. Windibank's pawnbrokery. My lord, the defense would like that last statement to be added to Mr. Graydon's formal testimony. Very well, counsel. Continue with your testimony, Mr. Graydon. Never had anything to do with the pawnbroking establishment where the man was killed.
Hold it!
Never had anything to do with it. You forget that I was there, Mr. Graydon, on the very afternoon of the incident.
Obviously, I am not a complete stranger to the pawnbrokers. I am currently on the lookout for an armchair to furnish my study.
No, you were there to redeem an article.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Let's keep talking now. Sorry?
You must be confusing me with somebody else. I wasn't there for any such purpose.
But the redemption ticket. That won't get you anywhere, Runo. Iris, what do you mean? Mr. Windibank never wrote the names of his customers on his redemption tickets, so you can't prove the ticket was his. Ah, of course, she's right. I'm afraid you're going to need to produce some irrefutable evidence here. Otherwise, he'll never admit to being there. Irrefutable evidence. That's all he's going to say on the matter, is it? What do you think, Bruno? I think he has no intention of telling us anything. He's well aware that the less he says, the less chance he has of giving himself away. The complete opposite of Hurley, then. He seems to think that the more he says, the better. Well, at least I managed to prise a little more information from these witnesses' lips. All thanks to the Skulkin brothers. Yes, they were the key to it after all. So he says he had nothing to do with the Windibanks. Well, we know that's not true. Perhaps now would be a good time to have a proper look through the court record. Good idea. You never know what tiny scrap of information could become a valuable weapon. Or... he does it entirely with tickets. Possession is 9/10 of the law, and the other 1/10 is having a ticket. Oh, did I not? I didn't press on this.
Hold it!
Don't forget, sir, that Mr. Herlock Sholmes is the most famous detective in the world.
And the most famous detective in the world tells the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth,
Oh no, I can't think how to answer that. What do I look like, a lawyer?
I once saw the world's most famous swindler thrown into jail. He allegedly told the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but what turned out to be a pack of lies.
Ugh.
Quite. Now, as you're no doubt aware, the Central Communications Station is the heart of this country's information network. My work there is of paramount importance, and you have kept me from it for long enough already.
Well, I mean, I suppose part of what they're saying, and this would hold true to a real court, is that unless Holmes takes the stand and explains how it works, all we have is a picture of blood that turned green, which proves nothing. So let's press on this again. Zippy, zippy, zip. Why can't I zip? I can zip, sure.
Objection!
There we go.
Is that right?
Oops.
Excuse me!
Do you have something to add, Inspector?
Come again, Sunshine?
You were there too, in fact, weren't you, Inspector, that afternoon?
Well, yes. I do remember meeting yourself in that pawnbroker's that afternoon. You, your young Japanese assistant, and the accused were all present, as I recall.
And at that time, this witness, Mr. Graydon, was trying to acquire a particular article.
Well now.
I'm afraid I don't remember too clearly. What? But you must.
I'm not going to lie and pretend I remember something that I don't.
What's going on here? Greggsy showed us a picture before, didn't he? You know, from the cameras that Hurley installed in Windibanks. Yes, of course.
Indeed. And the gentleman pictured bears a striking resemblance to the witness, I must say.
Exactly, which proves that Mr. Graydon was in the shop on the afternoon in question.
At no point have I denied that fact.
What a fourpence refresher memory.
I merely entered the shop to peruse the articles on sale and have a word with the broker. Nothing more.
This makes no sense. I understand why Mr. Graydon might be trying to cover his tracks. But why would Gregson be trying to avoid giving testimony about what happened? Fast forward through this again. I mean, can't I present the picture we were just talking about? Do I not have it? Apparently I don't have this picture. Yes, his bottomless fish and chips is also a bottomless source of entertainment. So, I mean, there's that, but it doesn't count. This we know, this is his blood on there, but can we... I'll try.
Objection!
It worked. Have you ever seen this disc before, Mr. Graydon?
Why? Is it supposed to mean something?
This disc was, until the day of his murder, in pawn at Mr. Windibank's shop. It was redeemed by the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade, that afternoon. However, somebody mysteriously appeared to try to take it from her. And that somebody was you, of course, wasn't it, Mr. Graydon?
As I have reiterated numerous times now, you are mistaken. That was not me. I've never seen that disc before in my life.
It may have escaped your notice, but there is a small smear of blood on the disc.
Yes, resulting from an abrasion of the thumb, perhaps.
That's right. The surface of the disc is covered in hundreds of tiny metal bumps. In the skirmish to acquire the disc, the thumb of the person who tried to take it suffered minor lacerations. So, while the disc bears the remnants of that skirmish in the form of this smear of blood, the thumb of the person in question must bear the remnants also in the form of a scratch.
Good gracious! It must. Indeed it must.
Mr. Graydon, you refused to allow a court officer to examine your arm before, so using exactly the same logic, you can refuse to allow a court officer to examine your thumb. Are you now going to refuse to allow us to examine your thumb? Because I have no doubt that it bears a small scratch consistent with a smear of blood on this disc. Typical UK thing to have such an infinite fish and chips package. And would hundreds seem high? I don't know how long the disc is. Each bump is one note, of course, including multiple notes for a chord. I believe the song on there is Butterfly by Smile DK, which is 140 beats per minute. I think there could be hundreds of bumps.
Well, it would seem I underestimated you.
What is the meaning of this? So you admit it now? You admit you have a scratch on your thumb from when you attempted to take the disc from the defendant? This is very tenuous circumstantial evidence. Like you couldn't actually say, like, show us your thumb, and if there's a scratch on it, that proves that you were in the pawn shop. It's like I could just say that I coincidentally scratched my thumb somewhere else, and that would be extremely plausible. Leading questions are allowed during cross-examination. It's only if it's your own witness you're not allowed to lead the witness.
Order! Well, Mr. Graydon? It would appear there has been something of a misunderstanding here. I did not attempt to take the disc, as you put it. No, quite the reverse.
What are you trying to say?
It's really quite simple, you see. The disc was mine from the outset. Is there some crime in taking an item you own out of pawn?
What?
It would seem, Mr. Graydon,
that in this piece of evidence my learned friend has established a link between yourself and the incident. Accordingly, you will tell the court everything you know about this disc now.
As you wish. Though I'm quite sure it has nothing whatsoever to do with the pawnbroker's murder.
We never said the pawnbroker was murdered. How did you know? No, actually, we did say that.
There's a note on the disc saying, "For McGilded," but the item belongs to me. The redemption ticket was stolen from me by the accused, that filthy gutterling, on the day in question.
Oh, I suppose we did call... That is true. He is our witness. Why are we cross-examining him? The prosecution doesn't want him to testify. That's a very good point. It always says cross-examination. So I just assumed.
I proceeded at once to the shop in order to explain my situation and redeem my article. In the end, of course, the disc was taken by the police. In other words, I had absolutely no reason to break into the shop later that same night.
Did I hear you correctly, sir? McGilded, you say, the famous London philanthropist? Who perished in this very courtroom 2 months ago in an omnibus? In an omnibus incineration? After being acquitted of a distinctly messy murder?
Yes, my lord, the one and the same.
Good lord, Mr. Graydon! Are you saying that Mr. McGilded and yourself were acquainted?
Yes, that's correct.
Order! Well, I certainly didn't expect to hear that name uttered here in my courtroom again. According to what Gina told us, this disc was placed in pawn on that fateful night 2 months ago. Right, it was not separately, but it was inside the coat. McGilded himself gave instructions to deposit it at Windibanks. It's funny that Mr. Graydon here is claiming the disc belongs to him then, isn't it? In all likelihood, he's lying. So, he appeared that afternoon at Windibanks in order to get his hands on McGilded's disc for some reason. It's just 2 McGildeds in a trench coat. But where did he get the coat? They're so expensive. Where did he get the... No, crap. What do you call them? The weasel. You call an overcoat a weasel, and that's where Pop Goes the Weasel came from. Because to pop means to pawn something, and weasel means an overcoat. Mulberry bushes, jury's still out on that. Counsel, you will commence your cross-examination, please. The item belongs to you. Would you care to explain how this belongs to you?
As you will observe, the communications officer such as myself commands a fine salary.
You are certainly exquisitely dressed, sir.
So you see, I have little need to make use of the services provided by the pawnbrokery trade. However, I did once find myself in difficulties, having placed my purse whilst on an errand, which is why I pawned my fine black overcoat to the broker in question. You claim this was your overcoat? Obviously, and in my haste, I clean forgot that the music box disc was in its pocket.
And yet there is a note on it that reads, "For McGilded."
I am a collector of rare and unusual music box music, and music NFTs. I first met Mr. McGilded at a gentleman's club in the city and was interested to discover that he shared my penchant in that area.
So, the disc in question.
It's a pre-production sample. I promised to let Mr. McGilded hear it.
But then you forgot it was in the pocket of the overcoat you were forced to pawn.
Yes, exactly.
Gina didn't mention any of that in her testimony 2 months ago, did she? No, because McGilded had threatened her to keep her mouth shut. Which means that if we dig too deeply here, it's going to expose Gina's perjury. You get the chair for that in this universe. Oh dear, this is complicated, isn't it? Let's leave it alone for the time being. Hold it! So, you're saying that Miss Lestrade lifted the ticket from your pocket or bag?
That's right, but despite being mindful of danger when walking into the insalubrious areas her kind frequent...
Objection!
Miss Lestrade did no such thing.
Of course you would take that stance, but the girl is a regular offender.
You came to the pawnbrokery that day prepared with all the information you needed to identify the defendant you were looking for. That's what brought you to Windibanks. To get your hands on Mr. McGilded's disc.
Objection!
My learned friend is a veritable font of nonsense, like wingdings.
Nonsense?
I concur with the prosecution. Counsel, you will refrain from conjecturing in this way. Is that clear?
Yes, my lord.
Then I will continue with my testimony for what possible use it can be.
Isn't perjury measured in hertz in this game? It should be. This whole series.
Hold it!
Had you ever been to Windibanks before?
Only once for the purposes of pawning something, but like many, I enjoy browsing in such establishments.
So when you noticed that the pickpocket had taken your ticket, you chased after her, is that correct?
Yes, that's right. I didn't notice at first, of course. That's the art of the pick purse. But when I did, I headed to the pawnbrokery at once to reclaim my coat before the thief could. I was merely trying to recover that. I was merely trying to recover what was rightfully mine in the first place.
Arg! He can say what he likes because he knows we have no evidence to contradict him on this. Yes, that's court.
In the end, of course, the disc was taken by the police.
Hold it!
Yes, it was taken by Inspector Gregson here, wasn't it?
That's right. This was the very man. Apparently, the police are collecting anything that has a connection to Mr. McGilded as evidence. That's what the inspector said, at least, as he seized my disc. And thanks to the skirmish with that wastrel, I snagged the end of my thumb at the same time.
And the disc in question is this disc here.
Yes, it is.
Scotland Yard have indeed been gathering items believed to have been the property of McGilded. Nobody good has ever used the phrase rightfully mine. Don't do it. Everax, you're a bad person. Presumably to aid in their investigations in some way.
Not something I would be aware of. I really didn't know the man well anyway. After all, I'm merely a communications officer with a penchant for music boxes and music NFTs.
And flamboyant poses. And flamboyant pose NFTs. Alright, let's go back.
Hold it! Is that right? Excuse me!
I don't know what makes you think that there's any spiders anywhere in my room. I keep a close eye out for them and kill them instantly, and there haven't been any all winter. Is something wrong, Inspector?
Well, what do you mean?
The last remark Mr. Graydon made in his testimony seemed to trouble you in some way.
No, it didn't. That's nothing. Leave it alone.
Let me ask you this, Inspector. Do you have any thoughts in your brain? Why is Scotland Yard gathering Mr. McGilda's possessions?
Can't tell you something like that, Sunshine.
What is it, Inspector? Investigative secrets?
Yes, exactly. You should all know. You should know all about that.
Magnus McGilda, who died so unexpectedly after his trial 2 months ago. A man, Oh, I forgot to... I've been waiting all stream for him to say a number, and he just said 2. 2 months ago. A man renowned through the capital for his dark contributions to public life, yet he had a dark side too.
Where are you going with this, Van Zeeks?
Yeah, I mean, once you click on a couple of things on YouTube, it knows to flood your channel, and so there's a couple of different things that I've been both like watching their new videos and occasionally going back and watch older ones, where they're basically like talking about every single NFT scam that's happened and how there's just absolutely no reason to get into it unless you want to lose all of your money or unless you want to take all of someone else's money by scamming them. There's no third case where it's like, oh, I participated in an economy. It's like, no, there's nothing like that. Every single one of them is a scam. Right, stuff like that. Whether it's what's it called? Wash trading is what it's called on Wall Street. And then on NFTs, it's just called business as usual. Or like insider trading. It's like, okay, there's tons of regulations to stop people from scamming each other on Wall Street, and there's none in the NFT and cryptocurrency space. It's terrible what people are getting away with, but also terrible that other people are bothering to allow people to take advantage of them. I suppose the police are dealing with the aftermath of his nefarious activities, are they?
That's enough. Coppers like me have duties to carry out that we're not at liberty to talk about. That's all you need to know.
Duties conferred by Lord Strongheart, I presume. The Lord Chief Justice appears to have great faith in you, Inspector.
Fish and chips, dots. The bottom line is, if you want to get more out of me, you're gonna need Long Strongheart's paw print first.
What's all this about? It's like there's something going on between Gregson and Lord Van Zeeks here. Nothing gets past Phoenix.
Well, it would appear the inspector has revealed all he is at liberty to reveal. Mr. Graydon, let us return to your testimony.
Gladly, my lord.
Hold it!
But perhaps you'd seen something of value among the forfeited items.
No, not at all.
Oh.
A valuer was brought in by the police to assess everything in the shop. Without exception, every article on the shelves was common or garden bric-a-brac.
In that case, it's clear that you broke into the shop later that day in order to recover Mr. McGilda's disc.
Have you not been listening, man? Even if I had wanted to recover the disc, you may recall that it had been seized by the police that afternoon. It was no more in the shop that night than I. As I keep saying, I simply had no reason to break in.
So there was nothing of McGilda's left in the shop that night. Nothing this man might have been after. I wonder if that's really true. Bruno, if you have some evidence, then let him have it. I'm dying to see that irritatingly reassured expression of his crumble. McGill slipped the disc into his coat pocket and had it deposited at Windibanks. Then, when he realized he was going to be arrested on suspicion of the omnibus murder, he threatened Gina and forced her to take the redemption ticket. Okay, so that's what it was. He had pawned it earlier, and then at some point during the trial, or just before, I guess just before the trial, he gave Gina the redemption ticket and said, go get my coat on this day. There's no doubt about it, that witness is lying through his pearly white teeth. The police were obviously after anything left behind by McGilded as well. That's why Inspector Gregson ended up taking the disc into custody that day. But Gregsy's being very strange about all this. There must be a reason for that, I'm sure. I just don't know what it is. For now, I need to focus on exposing the fact that Mr. Graydon is lying in his testimony.